Welcome to our countdown of the worst financial scams in history. Now, I know what you're thinking. Francesco, financial scams, that sounds about as thrilling as watching paint dry in real time, but trust me on this one. These scams have left a lasting impact on the financial world and the lives of countless individuals. We're talking about billions of dollars vanishing overnight, people losing their life savings, and enough corporate greed to make your stomach turn. So buckle up, dear viewers, as we delve into the murky depths of financial fraud and explore 5 cases that left the world utterly gobsmacked. Our first stop takes us back to the Roaring Twenties. A time of flapper dresses, jazz music, and unfortunately Charles Ponzi. Now, Ponzi wasn't a musician or a dancer, he was, for lack of a better term, a professional swindler. He started with a scheme so simple, it's almost brilliant in its audacity. Ponzi promised investors ridiculously high returns in just a few months, far exceeding anything anyone else was offering. The catch? There were no actual investments. Instead, he was just using money from new investors to pay off older ones, creating an illusion of massive profits. It was like a financial game of musical chairs, and when the music stopped, a lot of people found themselves without a seat. Ponzi's scheme eventually crumbled, costing investors millions and earning him a special place in the rogues gallery of financial fraudsters. Fast forward to the late 20th century and we find ourselves face to face with Enron, a company that epitomized corporate greed and arrogance. What seemed like an energy giant on the surface was, in reality, a house of cards built on accounting gimmicks and blatant fraud. Executives at Enron, led by the infamous duo of Ken Lay and Jeffrey Skilling, used accounting loopholes and special-purpose entities, which are basically fancy ways of saying off-the-books accounts, to mask billions of dollars in debt. They were like financial magicians, making debt disappear with a wave of their expensive pens, all while assuring everyone that everything was fine. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. The company's stock plummeted, employees lost their jobs and retirement savings, and the world learned a very expensive lesson about the dangers of unchecked corporate greed. Now, when it comes to financial scams, it's hard to top Bernie Madoff. This guy ran a Ponzi scheme so massive, it makes Charles Ponzi look like an amateur. For decades, Madoff cultivated an image of trustworthiness, attracting investors with the promise of consistent, above-average returns. He even managed to fool seasoned financial regulators, which, let's be honest, is a bit like fooling a toddler with a peekaboo game. But behind the facade of respectability, Madoff was running the largest Ponzi scheme in history, defrauding investors of an estimated $65 billion. The impact of his crimes was devastating, ruining lives, shattering families, and eroding trust in the financial system. The year is 2008. The world watched in disbelief as Lehman Brothers, a 158-year-old investment bank, filed for bankruptcy. It was like watching the Titanic hit the iceberg in real time, except instead of a ship full of people, it was the global economy that was sinking. Lehman Brothers had invested heavily in subprime mortgages, which in hindsight is a bit like investing your life savings in lottery tickets. When the housing bubble burst, those subprime mortgages went from being risky assets to financial weapons of mass destruction. The collapse of Lehman Brothers sent shockwaves through the global financial system, triggering a crisis that led to massive bailouts, widespread job losses, and a whole lot of economic uncertainty. And finally, we arrive at the 21st century with Wirecard, a German payment processing company that pulled off a scam so audacious it would make even seasoned fraudsters blush. Wirecard was hailed as a rising star in the fintech industry, processing billions of dollars in transactions. But behind the sleek facade and promises of innovation lurked a dark secret, a massive accounting fraud. The company allegedly inflated its sales and profits, creating a fictional $2 billion that existed only on paper. It was like a financial version of the emperor's new clothes, with everyone pretending to see the money until it became impossible to ignore the fact that it wasn't there. The Wirecard scandal exposed weaknesses in financial regulation and highlighted the risks associated with the rapid growth of the fintech sector. These financial scams, from the audacious schemes of Charles Ponzi to the corporate malfeasance of Enron and the brazen fraud of Wirecard, serve as a stark reminder of the importance of transparency and regulation in the financial industry. They highlight the dangers of unchecked greed, the allure of getting rich quick, and the importance of due diligence. So the next time you see a deal that seems too good to be true, remember these cautionary tales. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and don't be afraid to ask questions. After all, as we've learned from these cautionary tales, when it comes to your hard-earned money, it's always better to be safe than sorry.